I'm Naomi Miller.
Recording in progress.
Select Board, and I'm calling to order this special meeting of the Select Board on Monday, December 9th, 2024 at Cole Hall. It's 6:01 p.m. Does anybody have a conflict of interest with anything on the agenda? No. Thank you. Okay, so we're going directly to the issue of the evening, the presentation of the Community Center Development Committee with reference to Cole Hall and municipal offices. And we have presenting Zoe Conchos-Pearl, who is the co-chair of that committee, and Ben Benedict, who is a member. I think we start with you, right?
Okay, yes.
Thank you.
We can also both come up together.
You can come up together.
While they're sitting, I'm going to share the PowerPoint.
We're going to share a PowerPoint.
We're going to share the PowerPoint, but we have to share it. So share. Where is the, hold on, just don't everyone look while I'm doing this. I'm gonna figure it out. I have the PowerPoint open, but I got to share it. Brad, can you see the PowerPoint? Whew. Okay.
Good job.
I know. That's pressure. Jen would be so proud. Okay. All right. We're good.
So as Naomi mentioned, my name is Zoe Conchos-Pearl. I'm the co-chair of the Shaftsbury Community Center Development Committee. I live here in town, Old Depot. I'm going to walk us through a couple things so we can go to our first slide. There's Cole Hall. I'm ready for my next slide.
Okay.
All right. So the Community Center Development Committee was formed as an ad hoc committee. This is just kind of our agenda. So we're going to talk about what the CCDC is. We're going to talk about like the timeline having to do with how we came to where we are today. I will read his presentation, what the narrative is behind our recommendation, the committee's recommendation. And then we're gonna have a brief discussion about next steps, which will lead to Ben's presentation because he's looking towards the future. So I'm ready for my next slide. All right, so here's a little bit of information. Normally I wouldn't go so word heavy with a PowerPoint, but there's a lot to say here. So the Community Center Development Committee is an ad hoc committee that was formed in the footsteps of the former Cole Hall Committee and the Town Green Committee. It's comprised of citizen members, so we've got Ben as a citizen member, and then standing town committee members. I, for instance, am the planning commission representative. We have a representative from the recreation committee. We have a representative from Cole Hall, and then Naomi serves as the select board representative and is a non-voting member. So that's sort of how we got to where we are. We were charged originally with making recommendations regarding Cole Hall and the town's request for a community center. As well, we were asked to talk about sort of a greater plan, which had to do with Cole Hall itself, the request for a community center, the idea of a town green, the idea of potential workforce housing, and address one of the sort of survey responses was, this idea of wanting sort of a chamber of commerce. So that's sort of our introduction. I'm ready for my next slide. So this is just a brief overview of the members, just because I want this to be part of our public record. It's also on the town website. You can see that we've got representatives from Cole Hall, from the Planning Commission. We've got a citizen architect who is acting, as a citizen and helping us out more with his expertise. We've got somebody from the Recreation Committee. We've got somebody from just the general citizenry. We've got a neighbor to the property, who's a citizen representative and also knows plenty about Cole Hall, far more than I. So that's sort of who we are. So I'm ready for my next slide. All right, so here's the timeline of here, how we got here to this year. So in 2022, following the pandemic, the Shaftsbury American Rescue Plan Act committee, so the ARPA committee, sent a survey to all of the residents of the town by mail, asking about how people of the town would like the monies to be spent that were, granted as part of the American Rescue Plan Act. I always get to switch the words. Anyhow, so the responses showed a marked desire for community, meeting space, and for a center of commerce. I'm going to show, the next slide will show the results themselves, so we'll get there. But in 2023, the Economic Development Committee, the EDC, conducted a survey following up on the Shaftsbury ARPA Committee's recommendation that money should be used to turn Cole Hall and its immediate surroundings into a community center in town. When that survey went out, respondents expressed a lot of interest in having a meeting and event space. They asked about offerings for seniors and youth, and they expressed interest in having a commercial and/or warming kitchen. It said commercial kitchen on there, but there's been a lot of discussion about that since then. So here we are in 2024, almost 2025. This committee was formed to address sort of how to best spend the remaining ARPA funding to create a community center. And in the thought process of this, how some of what the community center aims to do could meet more needs, and purposes. So as a part of that, we talked about various different options. We've been meeting once a week for several months, and we've been meeting as a group since April. We really have a lot of different thinkers on the board or on the committee, a lot of different perspectives, a lot of knowledge. And so it's been interesting to go through this process as a group. All right, I'm ready for the next slide. So here are our results, just to show, you all sort of what was said. I know you're aware of it, but it's useful to revisit. This is from the town website. All of this stuff is sourced directly from town, and a lot of it has been cited in other places, including the Bennington Banner and Manchester Journal. Next slide. So in talking about what a community center for this town should do, we kind of discussed, in depth more what everybody needs, and so we talked about how it would be really nice for there to be a place for community gathering and events. That was one of the explicitly, expressed interests from one of the surveys. We also talked about offerings for seniors and youths and how having a meeting space facilitates the ability to do that. And so that's like the sort of fun aspect of the community center. We also talked about the ability to have a space in which services could be provided to members of the town. This is sort of like, to me, like a bonus, and also maybe actually the whole point. But so the great hope is that in having a community space, we can have providers in healthcare and social services come in, including maybe eye clinics, foot clinics. We've had people express interest in doing, a monthly pro bono sort of psych clinic, just sort of stuff that can really serve all of us who live in this town. And we've also had conversations, not myself, but other members of town governance, I suppose is what this is, with Meals on Wheels, who pledged to provide meals several times weekly to town residents. I'm not sure what the exact details are, but it looks like lunch. And that would be a great boon to this community. It would be great for fostering community. It would be great to be able to provide it to people. And we really need a space in order to do that. And that's the only reason it's not happening right now. All right, next slide. So I put these like 1, 2, 3, but I'm gonna talk about 3 first. So as we were talking about the different options for building a new community center over there, I'm pointing towards the town green area, or perhaps behind us, which is, there were a lot of conversations, a lot explored. During that time period, a lot of issues that are ongoing really came to a head in this building. Downstairs, there is, a water issue that's been going on. I'm sure you're all aware of it. There was a resulting mold issue. There's been some electrical stuff going on down there, and it basically was creating an unsafe space to work. So much so that as we meet this evening, everybody has all of their files up here for everyone who can't see. And there's a temporary workspace out in the parking lot because it is unusable space. So that sort of became part of the conversation. We started to talk about building a structure that could include town offices and a community center. But as we started doing that, we came to the conclusion, what about Cole Hall? We all love Cole Hall. We don't want Cole Hall to sit empty. And that's extremely costly. When you start looking at 2,500 square feet, talk about 10 offices, and everybody who works in this town is integral to our daily goings on. So it's not really optional for the town office to do this. So we were talking about that while we met with representatives from modular home companies, who do commercial builds, who do municipal projects, and sort of priced out buildings. We kept coming out to like $400 a square feet. afoot, excuse me. And also then sometimes they'd be like, yeah, and that doesn't involve the site work. So just sort of, so even up from there, right? So we started looking at it, and then spent some time also discussing the options that are traditionally built structure. What it would look like to hire a contractor in this area who would sub out all of the work and do like a lot of the building. And also we found out in the modular structures that you still have to hire a ton of subs because you have to hire an electrician, you have to hire a plumber, like they do all your wiring, but you need your roughing. So we were met with this, realization that, which is no surprise, building is hard, even if it's modular, and very costly. So even with both of these options, we started looking into average square foot pricing in Vermont using some various sources that are, like Vermont Digger has published different pieces about this, and sort of talking with other people about it, still coming in pretty high. And so for the amount of square feet that we were looking to build, we were looking at well above $1 million, maybe 1.2. And that, as anyone who has ever had it, it always is more. So that led us to, it's going to be, I think, our next slide, but I don't remember what it is. So let's take yes, it's okay. So after a lot of discussion, we started thinking about this other building. And we've been thinking about it a lot and talking about it a lot, and probably some of you have been reading about it in the newspaper. So what we're recommending is a two-pronged approach to the question of how to have a community center as well as a safe, ADA compliant town office for the public's use. We need a place where we need both. And so as such, we recommend, the committee recommends the acquisition of the Shaftsbury building, which has served the town for decades in another capacity, which is the former offices of the Shaftsbury Medical Associates, right? So it's just a really great space. We recommend that becomes the town offices and that Full Hall becomes the community center. It would be great to restore this building to its original shape, to bring it back up, to see this, to see the light again. And that would be a restoration project that would follow in the footsteps of managing to get everybody out of here. And that also ties up with the fact that we need to do a lot of remediation downstairs and sort of handle some damage control down there following a lot of water damage. And just a quick note on this building and the fact that, the town offices that we recommend to move into the town offices is that this is basically a ready-made situation in a lot of ways. Nothing has to be built. The move-in preparation does exist, of course, as ever. But it is far more reasonable than any other way to move the town employees out in order to begin the next process, which would be to restore this building to its former glory. I only lived here for a handful of years, but I've heard from many people how much this building means to the town. People have gone to school in this building. I know that there were dances and all sorts of wonderful things. It would be lovely to see that happen again. The building is a gift to the town. It's a gift to all of us. And in the interim, while we fundraise, and that would be the next task of the Community Center Development Committee, is to figure out the community center part. In the interim, this space can serve as the town offices, but it's also large enough at a very attractive price that we could easily do some sort of meetings there. We could have, I got a large front room. It's got a lovely space outside that could potentially have picnic areas. And so this is already ready to serve a lot of the services. This place could house a warming kitchen, can house all of the clinics. And so that makes this community space a lot more like a meeting space and doesn't have to carry the weight of all of that other responsibility. So this is what we think is a good idea. We hope you think so too. I'm gonna turn the floor over to Ben Benedict. He's got a building report to deliver that is very comprehensive. So thank you all for bearing with me.
Thank you. So I tried to take a critical look at the building and see if it would really be something that the town might be interested in. So I'm going to start by describing what's there. It's a 4,413 square foot condominium that shares a 2-acre lot with an attached dental office. Yeah. Setback from Route 7A, next to the cemetery, there's parking for 24 vehicles in 3 lots. Built in 1978 for Doctors Ferris, the wood-sided building has a full 850 square foot basement under the northern section of the condominium, and the remainder is on concrete slab on grade with perimeter concrete block frost walls. Structure is a combination of wood post and beam construction and an exterior fiberglass insulated 2x6 framed walls. The interior walls are 2x4 wood frame. Insulated roofs are a combination of composition, shingled high-pitch shed roofs, shingled low-pitch roofs, and flat membrane roofs. There are 8 skylights in the shed roofs, 5 in the entry porch and entry, and 1 in the flat roofed office area. Inside, the building is mostly carpeted with vinyl flooring and quarry tile in some areas. Walls throughout are sheetrocked, as is the ceiling and gathering space, the halls, kitchenette, and the full height ceilings in the 4 offices at the ends of the south and west halls. The 8 exam rooms and the offices, break room and procedure room in the northern section over the basement have hung ceilings. Lights in the hard ceilings are primarily recessed downlights, and in the hung ceilings, 2x4 fluorescent droppers. The condominium utilities consist of town water, 200 amp underground electric service, and a shared on-site septic system that's shared with the dental office. Heat and air conditioning are supplied by 4 propane electric rooftop units. There are 3 bathrooms, none strictly speaking handicapped accessible, 2 kitchenettes, sink and cabinets in a procedure room, and sinks in 8 exam rooms. So to discuss how the condition of the building and how we might look at it, the almost 50-year-old building has been reasonably well cared for. The site is bright and airy, even serene. It's an easy walk through the village to the store, post office, and school. The lawn and trees are attractive and the sidewalk solid. The asphalt paving is functional, but starting to show signs of age. The exterior of the building is in relatively good shape. Composition shingles on the medical building roof look stained and worn, but no leaks have been reported. The dentist's office has replaced their roofs recently. So roof plate replacement is on the horizon. Budget $20,000. And the skylights too will need replacement at some point. The painted wood siding and trim are in reasonably good repair with some normal exceptions. Interior of the building is dated, carpet needs replacing, every room needs repainting before move-in, and there are other odds and ends to do. The lighting is adequate, few walls need to be moved to make a new vault. Budget $90,000 for all of the above. The vault must be protected with a new door and any other required security. Town clerk is looking into the requirements for that and the costs. 4 HVAC units on the roof appear to be 1998 vintage, which would put them towards the end of their useful life. But by all accounts, they're functioning adequately. New equipment would mean a significant upgrade in reliability and efficiency, but that upgrade, budget $16,000 per unit, looks like it can wait for now. There are supplementary electric heaters in most of the current exam rooms, which appear to be largely unused. Monthly electric costs for the building when it was in daily use a couple of years ago were $500 to $600. The covered lighting this covered lighting and air conditioning. Annual propane costs were about $5,000 for heating, according to the owner. The north wing, and I do have some plans which I can spread out and show you. But the north wing of the building could accommodate a 375 square foot town clerk's office with bath and adjacent 325 square foot vault, a little less than double the size of the current vault. The dry basement space below could be used for storage or potentially for extra vault area. The remainder of the building could include a reception area, a generous 570 square foot skylit gathering space with fireplace, a 300 square foot work area, kitchenette and small break room, 2 baths, 4 large offices and 7 small offices, with existing sinks. The asking price of Shaftsbury Medical stands at $375,000, or about $85 a square foot. Even with significant move-in costs added, the total per square foot cost would be a fraction of the cost to build new. For example, if the town paid the asking price for the building and spent $150,000 to renovate, the square foot cost would creep up to around $120 a square foot, about half the minimum cost for building new. One short disclaimer: while this assessment is made with diligence and best of intentions, it should not be considered an in-depth professional risk assessment. So happy to roll out plans
Great,
and
thank you.
Answer any questions.
Yes, and at this point, I think we should open the questions first to members of the board and then to members of the public, such as they are, in person and on Zoom.
So just to orient you, this is the entry. There's a reception area and quite a large gathering area. The shaded in area would be what I would think would be designated as the town clerk's office and vault. And I'm thinking that the rest of the area, 4 big offices and 8 small offices would be used as town offices. There's also a work area here. Could be used in other ways, and there's a kitchenette.
So this was kind of your envisioning of kind of each of the spaces for each of the folks that work here in Cole Hall as just kind of how it could lay out.
Right, yeah, certainly very preliminary, but yes, just to determine whether it actually worked for the town or
Within
not.
that space, that is like, interesting.
And I think Paula is going to scan a photo of that.
I'm gonna email it to Brad and Tony.
And so for kind of existing, okay, you're writing in here, removing walls for kind of this space where the town clerk and vault would be, but not very much with moving walls in kind of the west and.
Yeah, the only place you'd have to move walls would be in the town clerk's area. And that would be to divide it into about the right proportion of space for offices and vault.
Okay.
And the vault is being pursued by Marlene, but it is a question mark at this point as to exactly what the vault needs in terms of security and how much that would cost.
And just having worked in this space and things like that, some of these spaces that you were looking at are fairly small as far as because they've been kind of divided up in kind of strange ways. And I know some of these wall dividers kind of don't go all the way up to the ceiling. So those.
Load bearing, or then you could take them out, but would enlarge, I think is what Mark.
Yeah, they kind of, some of these, especially on kind of this area when
Yeah,
they're fairly tall.
yeah, the walls are not load bearing. And so, yes,
If we didn't want to keep all of the kind of rooms the way they were.
you could put rooms together or change the configuration.
Could I just add that I believe that there would be space to hold elections there.
Really?
I think so. I think there would, if we utilize both of the empty spaces. Checking people in one area and putting them voting lists in another, I think there would be space.
Tony and Brad, I emailed you a scan of that blueprint, so check your email.
And would there be a way, if this does become kind of a gathering space for things that are not related to like a town meeting or voting or something like that, for the gathering space that's out in kind of front area room to be kind of closed off with a locked door so that the rest of the building
There is a,
or this section of the town clerk vault area?
the short answer is yes, there is a door here. These are glass partitions and it's a glass door and the baths are on this side of that locked door. So yes, you could close off that front space, but then you don't have access to that access.
Interesting. That's
That's not to say that you couldn't block all the office doors.
correct, that's
Yes.
true
Mhm.
too, or if there's ways in between some of this space. That's interesting.
Is this all measured right? Did you have to measure it out or did you have some pictures done?
Yes, exactly.
Gotcha. I just was wondering, it's a lot of work. And of course, it's all been done.
We're very lucky, very lucky.
So I've never been an architect, so I know.
We've been very lucky.
I was like, so does the other half of these things start, they share this wall?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. And there's pictures on it. I don't know how they connect. But, yeah, I guess I have questions about the condominium arrangement, just how that would,
Mhm.
yeah, and then, so would we own the entire building or we're underlying?
It's like a 70-30 from what we understand. 70% is the bigger part of the building and the dental office would be 30%.
So we would own 70%
Of the entire building.
Of the entire building.
Condominium.
Yeah.
Give us 70% like of the power and the.
No,
They're separate.
Separate utilities,
Utilities except
the septic.
And the
And that's on site.
And what about the land, the 2.2 acres, is that also
I
70-30?
don't know the answer to that.
We have to get them in.
I think it's cooperatively owned.
Yes. I can imagine.
In the parking lots.
Mhm.
Has there been discussion with the folks at the dental clinic about kind of all of these things?
Not yet, I have reached out to them and not yet heard back from them, but I expect to catch up with them soon.
Because I can imagine they may have some real thoughts about all of this.
We've not
Potentially.
discussed it with them, but we have discussed it amongst ourselves. And also the town is a better tenant to move in beside them and perhaps many others that might come into that space, so.
Especially since we would be plowing their parking lot and mowing their lawn too, so
Orderly.
there's no downside. Yeah.
Have we talked with the condominium, about the condominium piece with Merrill Bench?
Not yet. But we've talked to the VLCT, and there's no legal reason why we can't own a condo in a real estate transaction. It's just, there's no concern.
The first major concern, so something.
Yeah, that was the first phone call I made.
Actually,
Yeah.
Did Tony or Brad have any comments or questions? No? Okay.
No, my only concern was, I'm sorry, this is Tony. My only concern was moving the walls to make for larger spaces, but I think those were answered.
Okay, thanks. Do you want to respond?
We have one other thought is when you move walls and where there are hung ceilings, you're dealing with ceilings as well as walls.
Mhm. And what's above them?
Right.
Yes. Any questions or comments from the public here or on Zoom?
Is there intention of moving a vault of some type up there rather than having to come back here down the
Yes.
cellar?
Yes, sir.
And that's not a problem. I mean, it's on a slab, so it would not be a problem installing something.
That particular area is not on the slab, there's a basement underneath. So the immediate investigation would be, okay, can you put it on the first floor? Could you do it as 2 floors using part of the basement level? So there are some questions surrounding the vault for sure.
Right.
But yes, it would be on site there.
But it is a possibility to do without any major,
We would need to change the space to make it compliant with whatever a vault needs to be in the state of Vermont, which the town clerk is currently looking into. But there is a space for it. So we're looking into, as Ben mentioned, kind of like with security protocols, or if everything needs to be 100% fireproof, what that means.
right, yeah,
But yeah, that's definitely the intention, is to move it over there and have
everything here rather than
That's the
everything here, which
the clerk can just move through those spaces. And
I was
On
hoping
this
you were going
point-
to say that.
oh yeah, yeah, on here we've got, the clerk kind of said, the clerk kind of over here in a space, and then the vault kind of right here. So yeah,
Next to
welcome to take, but yeah, so that's sort of definitely part of the plan, part of the intention, to create some ease of use. And there's the town of Bennington has a 2-story vault. So
We'll have to make a field trip there.
yeah, I recently went.
Yeah.
I had forgotten that I recently went. But it's pretty cool. Some of that is an option perhaps, but yeah, definitely a consideration.
Mark or Rob, do you have any comments or questions? Oh, Rob.
Nothing, it all sounds pretty good so far. I think it would be a smart move for the town to make use of the space if it's available.
Thank you. Brad and Tony, no further comments, questions?
They can unmute themselves. Oh, Brad.
Yep. I know that, sorry, I had a little bit of a cold. I'm just wondering about, and it seems like there'll be plenty of space, but maybe in the future addition, is there any potential that it could be added on to?
Yeah, yes, certainly could be added on to. There's enough additional space at the moment so that for the foreseeable future, that wouldn't be necessary, but yeah, sure.
There's a lot of, just to tag on to that, there are a bunch of spaces on this drawing here that aren't accounted for by any town offices that we imagine to be used by service providers for those different clinics and stuff. So those spaces, if they ever needed to become full-time spaces that were, used by town officials, that could be done. Because there are some spaces in there that are empty with the idea of being used on a sort of rolling basis by different providers. So there's definitely a lot of room. It's a big space. It's not just enough which is another benefit too, to the way that we were looking before, the possibility of building a community center, putting town offices in it, which once again left Cole Hall behind, which nobody wants to do. And in addition to that, what if we have more people joining, or, something were to change? We've already built a structure, and it's, built to this exact purpose that's happening in 2024. Whereas this structure does have more space, and, it's a little bit more flexible than if you build something for exactly what's happening right now. So, to that question.
And this space is completely ADA compliant to 2024 standards?
Not bad.
No, except the bathrooms, right? But everything else is ADA compliant?
Was like the report.
I'm not absolutely certain, but yes, I haven't measured every doorway.
And it is on one floor, so that helps.
For
They even have the button
into,
to open the door.
I'm considered any areas that are difficult at this point with a minimum of effort could be made useful.
This is a lot of work. Thank you for all of the members of the CCDC and Ben for doing this right at. This is, I know, have been a huge list of conversation. Okay.
And the space is 4,000 something square feet.
Yeah, it's 4,400 square.
4413.
Well, and the neighboring cemetery is actually quite nice.
and quiet.
Very
And
pleasant.
there'll be a quiet neighbor, yeah.
That's pleasant.
It's just a very versatile building. I see it as a Swiss Army knife because it's not just municipal offices, it's community space, it's outside community space, it's so many things can go on there, and there's just more potential. Potential for growth, but potential to service the community in ways that either haven't been seen in years or haven't been done in a long time, and a place for people to gather.
And in the center of town.
In the center of town.
Which is.
Yeah, and it's comfortable. It is not safe for people to be walking up the stairs here, especially the elderly.
This sort of also, is to the town's request in these survey results for a chamber, or I'm not here, excuse me, a center of commerce kind of energy, is that if we have a space that incorporates, town offices over here, and then we've got eventually here our community center, and that this space can sort of, in the transition, house those community center needs. We'll have people walking. People might be walking from here to there. People can walk to school. Once, in eventuality, we will complete the town green. They'll be on the town green. This will be the community center. They might walk over for a meeting. It's just it's going to create, this idea has the possibility to create a more cohesive sort of neighborhood feeling, a sense of community, not just in the name of a building, but in actuality. And that's the great hope for this town, is to be able to use this money that was allocated to provide, services, and also a sense of community that right now structure of the town isn't really able to provide. So we hope that this kind of plan might be able to foster that kind of spirit in the future, and who knows what could happen, it could just be better and better, so.
Shall we consider moving into executive session, folks, to discuss this?
Sounds good.
Yeah. I will need a motion for that, and Tony and Brad, I think they'll have to phone you in as we get into executive.
Yeah, so I'm going to pause the recording.
Stick by your phone before you pause it, but we just said that we may take action when we come back from executive session. So if people are interested in seeing that eventuality, stick around. We'll be back. Yeah. Thank you, Mike.
And I'll second that.
Thank you, Martha. All in favor?
Aye.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Okay, so we are now back.
Hold on a sec. We just dropped Brad. Oh,
He's
I
on
see.
here.
He's coming back there. Here. Okay.
Tony, are you coming back to, are you on the phone or are you coming back?
I'm on the phone.
You're gonna stay on the phone, that's fine.
And Brad.
There's Brad.
And there's Brad, okay.
And Bert's muted though.
He can unmute himself. There we go.
Okay. Should we take the personnel item first?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can I have a motion, with reference to appointment of a new zoning administrator?
Sure, I'll make a motion to appoint Miss L. Johnson to the position of zoning administrator.
Can I second that?
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
500. Thank you. Okay, can we now take up the legal matter? Can I have a motion with reference to proposal of the Community Center Development Committee to make an offer to purchase the Shaftsbury Medical Associates building?
At this moment, I'm Michael Chudowski. I'm saying for the camera there, I'm going to recuse myself because I have a personal relationship with the building owner, David King, and so I'm going to leave the building at this time.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
And I, Martha Cornwell, am also going to recuse myself due to a conflict of interest. The owner, David King, and I worked together as associates when we worked at Shaftsbury Medical, and so I will be leaving the room as well.
Thank you, Martha Cornwell.
You taking Tony with you?
Oh, just Tony.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure.
See you next time.
Yes.
All right, bye, Meg.
Have a good time. Okay, nobody here has a conflict of interest, right?
No.
Okay, so can I have a motion?
So moved.
Purchase the medical building. Is that the talk?
Sure. That we enter into negotiations, right? Okay. Brad, do we have a second?
Second, yes.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Great. Can I now have a motion to adjourn?